Charlie Robinson is here, President and CEO of American Cruise Line, the largest domestic cruise line. We need to get into this, Charlie. It's good to meet you, and thank you for being here, man.
You too. Thank you for having me on the show.
Oh, it's my pleasure because we get to talk about exploring this country, which you and I love so very dear.
My favorite topic.
You know, early on, being from Iowa, we were always taught that the Mississippi River is a really cool place. And as kids, we were like, yeah, so what? And I remember the first time I went to the banks of the Mississippi River, and you don't really realize what you're working with until you get up close and personal. And I would imagine you find that that's true in every itinerary on each one of these 12 ships.
Absolutely. And everyone is so different. Even the Mississippi River, what you get in Iowa is so much different than what you get as you move further downriver. And all of our itineraries have that same kind of feel to it, where there's so much history, culture, natural beauty, there's so much ecology, there's so much to see on each different itinerary.
Well, I know we have limited time together. I want to talk about the breaking news that you guys released very recently, which I was incredibly excited to see. You guys said, look, because of this pandemic, we're not sailing. We've moved itineraries around. Our ships are moored and staying in place until, did I read this right, June 20th?
That's correct.
Now,
and there's still no guarantees because it's dependent on everything working out the way that the modeling predicts, and the ports have to be comfortable with us visiting and so forth.
Yep.
But our target right now is June 20th, and that looks really promising. There's a lot of support for it.
Absolutely, myself included. But if some of the astute viewers will go, wait a second, didn't the CDC say, hey, no cruising until some date? I don't even have that off the top of my head, but isn't this before that date?
It is, but our ships all have fewer than 250 people on board. And so we are exempted from the CDC order. The CDC also focuses on the international lines.
This is what I love about a family business, okay? This is terrific because, and people need to know this, it's very difficult to get a family business to actually make money. Okay, so first of all, we're assuming that you are making money and you're still in business. Maybe not at this second, fine. But nevertheless, you can make these decisions based on what you believe is the right thing to do for your guests, not just for the company.
That's right. That really is right. And we are still in business. We're just not operating.
Right.
And this for us is really about leadership in the industry and restoring credibility more than it is about making money. These first few trips are quite frankly not profitable ones, given how much is going into preparation for them, and then all of the efforts we're doing on board and throughout the cruise to sanitize and be ready to respond.
Well, I definitely want to talk about that onboard experience under normal circumstances for those that aren't familiar with American Cruise Line, but we'll get to that in a second. But I want to talk about what's going to be a little different. What are you doing on board? I read some pretty cool things that you guys are doing on board, medical personnel, additional medical personnel, and whatnot. What is it going to look and feel like and be different on board?
Right, and as long as we come back eventually to talking about the things we do well and the things people really are paying for when they get here, because that experience is still the same, and we've focused a lot on maintaining as much of the experience as we can. But in terms of what's changing, the biggest highlight is that we've cut capacity by 25%, and so we're guaranteeing that these ships will be at a maximum of 75% occupancy, and that frees up a lot of space for isolation rooms on board if they're needed, to have resident medical personnel on board, and then to space out the crew more so that they're not in confined spaces either, and can maintain their own social distancing practices. So it just lowers the density of the whole ship and allows us to have these medical facilities on board.
Because it's one thing to just be the leader and do these things with, relatively speaking, no competition. It's another to deliver that true value, which is going to carry over to our new normal.
Right, right. And so we've, in delivering that still exceptional value, we're saying, how can we still deliver the same culinary experience on board in the new normal? And our answer to that is to provide additional dining venues on board and provide room service so that the actual meal program is still the same. It's just more spaced out. And so our dining room is never more than half full because we have an additional lounge that people can eat in and have room service available, but it's still the same program.
It's still the same.
And then on tours, we're working with each venue to ensure that they can maintain their own sanitation protocols and can maintain social distancing practices also. But once they establish those, we're still providing those same tour experiences. We're just going to run more frequent, smaller group tours. So instead of sending 60 people on a tour, we'll now send 2 groups of 30. And so we're thinking through the entire experience in that way.
For somebody that's never stepped foot on one of these boats, and I know what's interesting about your fleet is that they're different, which is, we need to talk about that too. How do you describe an American Cruise Line experience to someone that's never been on the website?
It's a sophisticated, personalized experience. And we have small ships, so it's personalized by its nature. We're working with each guest individually in terms of what they want to do and want to see. And it's sophisticated because they're new ships. They're modern. They have a lot of modern technology, which I'll talk about also and how that's helping us now. And so we're able to meet the expectations of modern travelers and truly care for them at the same time. And that's a rare blend now where modern is often just as big as possible and you lose the kind of human touch to a lot of things. And we're very careful to maintain that because that's really where we started.
Yeah. Where do these ships go?
We operate in 30 states throughout the year. So we hit a big part of the country, the whole East Coast, the Mississippi River system, and the Northwest. And
wow.
Right? And
I didn't know it was that big. That's awesome.
It is. And there's more than 35 itineraries actually that do these different areas. And so we'll start in one of the major cities because that's really how people need to travel. They fly in for their cruises generally. But once we're out of the city, we really focus on the small towns and the interesting cultural destinations in that area. And so we're not hitting the major cities or the major tourist destinations. We're really going to the out of the way small towns that people otherwise would have a very hard time getting to. And so we have a particularly large impact in those places because they're not necessarily huge tourist draws.
What do you hear most, especially on a first-time person who comes off one of these itineraries? What do they tell you?
They really love the people on board the ships, our crew, the other passengers. It's a very fast camaraderie that we create on board, and that's very, very meaningful to them. The friendships that are formed are very strong, and we see it very often where people will actually book their next cruise with the people they've met on board the first one. And that's terrific. They then sort of form these traveling groups and might continue that for years. The other big factor for us is the ships, is people really love the new ships and the way we've designed them. They're designed to foster that congenial atmosphere on board, but they also have a lot of new technology and just a lot of very nicely designed spaces that highlight the areas we're cruising in, with a lot of glass, a lot of cultural enriching items on board, and it's all tied into the overall experience.
On a side note, do the ships go through locks?
We do. On the Columbia River, it has some of the biggest locks in the country, and we go through 8 locks that bring us up a total of more than 700 feet on the Columbia River, which is unbelievable.
And I'm happy to expose my nerdness about things like that to some viewers watching or going, Erik, give us a break. Nobody cares about the locks. Yeah, those are the people that haven't gone through one.
That's right.
And they all think, oh, I got to go through the Panama Canal one day. Yes, and you should do that. If you want to, there's plenty of opportunities to do so. But if you haven't been through a lock, it's really cool. And it's almost hard to describe.
It really is. And it's amazing. And since we go through 8 of them on the one itinerary on the Columbia River, we have people who insist on being on board on the sun deck for every single locking. And invariably, we're going to go through 1 or 2 in the middle of the night. They still get up and go up to the sun deck just to watch us go through the locking. But it's really cool. We pull into this hangar almost, and then slowly rise up more than 100 feet, and all of a sudden you're back in this beautiful landscape. And it's just unbelievable.
Don't make me cry on my own show now. Stop that. But it is true. It's just one of those, how do you put that in a brochure? How do you put that on the website? How do you make it's like, it's very difficult. But again, doesn't this go back to what this company is about? Because again, you didn't start this company. This wasn't necessarily your dream or your brother's dream per se. You could have done anything essentially you wanted with this company, but you chose to continue to operate within the same family of the original idea. And that says a lot about how you value these experiences.
We believe more than anything in the fundamental recipe, the small ships, the destination focus, the sophisticated atmosphere on board, and providing an educational experience at the same time we're providing an entertaining one. And that's really just core to our mission. And there's no way that we're going to change that.
Yeah. What would you recommend on a first-time voyage?
I would recommend the Lower Mississippi River as a great first-time voyage. You get everything about our experience on board. You have the history of the Mississippi River. You have an amazing culinary palette and menu available. There's music and entertainment every evening, and then you have this fantastic trip from Memphis to New Orleans, and in 7 nights. And it's a wonderful trip because there's so many different elements that get brought into it.
Well, I don't want to wrap this up with controversy, Charlie, but there have been some that have said you are kind of difficult to work for. Now, I don't want you to substantiate this rumor, but they've said one of the reasons you're kind of difficult to work for is that you truly do smile during most of the day. And sometimes people find it a little off-putting.
Well, I'll take it. We have a lot to smile about. We have a great product and yeah. We have great customers, so it's hard not to smile.
Sounds good to me. I think you have a real future as the official spokesperson if this whole CEO thing doesn't work out.
Well, I'm just passionate about the industry and about running boats, so
Agreed.
That makes it easy.
You got that right. Charlie, thank you for doing this. It's nice to meet you finally.
You too. Thank you very much.